and welcome to the 4thDown Podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we are going to be discussing a lot of fun topics on the day after Christmas. It's going to be a fun show today. First, we'll be discussing how future Hall of Fame quarterbacks Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers survived this past Christmas and keep their playoff hopes alive. And we'll be discussing which two teams were naughty and nice this past weekend. And last but not least for the topics, we'll be talking about Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos and how yesterday's disastrous game against the Rams pretty much described their whole season. So it'll be a fun show. We'll have lots of fun. Let's start with the Packers game real quick. We'll start with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers as they traveled to Miami to take on a tough Dolphins team. Before the schedule was released, Packers-Dolphins was indicated to be a big game for playoff implications. Probably thought about better records for the Packers and Dolphins, but this game will do. The Green Bay Packers were 6-8 on a 2-game winning streak as they traveled down to Miami to take on Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, who were on a 3-game losing streak. And they came off a hard-fought loss against the Buffalo Bills this past Saturday in the snow, and a lot of people were thinking, Miami could run away with this game because they have a lot of talent on the offensive side with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle at the receiving ends, and they also got Raheem Mostert in the backfield. So, opposite ends meet. Green Bay's on a winning streak, Dolphins on a losing streak. One has to give. And it's a big game for both these teams as Green Bay needs to win out, and especially now with the Commanders only need to lose one more game. And the Packers need to win out to clinch a playoff berth. And as seen on the screen, as I mentioned, Green Bay needs to win this game, or needed to win this game and the next two, and the Commanders need to lose one more game in the last two. And as for the Dolphins, none of the results mattered for them, but with a loss to Green Bay, it pretty much they're on thin ice of getting pushed out of the playoff picture. And with the games coming up at New England and home against the Jets, the final 2 weeks, this was a game that definitely slipped away. But this is about Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. We'll talk about Tua and the disasters later on in the show. The Green Bay Packers start off red hot on the special teams. Keyshawn Nixon, absolute stud, replaced Amari Rodgers, and the Cowboys game a few back. Start off with a 93-yard kickoff return, get to about the 6. Green Bay goes 3 and out, kick his field goal. Make it 3-0. And then Tua and Miami Dolphins team started off hot. Big 84-yard touchdown to Jalen Waddle, which was all Jalen Waddle in his speed, and a big 50-yard completion to Tyreek Hill. There were some points in the game where you thought, man, the Dolphins are going to run away with this game, and Green Bay's playoff chances are pretty much done. It was 20-10. Green Bay had a nice drive down the field to get a field goal range, make it 20-13. Aaron Jones had about maybe 7 carries, but he was actually injured in that game. He was questionable return, so I didn't really utilize him much, but he utilized A.J. Dillon a good bit. And the passing game for the Green Bay wasn't too awful, as in this graphic I will say will include Tom Brady, but we'll get to him in a sec. As for Aaron Rodgers against the Dolphins, 24-38, 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. So not really awful stats from Aaron Rodgers against a very underrated Dolphins defense, but it got the job done. Christian Watson was a big help too, and just out of the blue too, a veteran tight end Mercedes Lewis, who's usually a blocking tight end for Green Bay, came up with 2 big catches. One obviously the touchdown, but the big one when they were trailing by 7. Deep throw left side, Mercedes Lewis hauls it in. A lot of controversy seeing if it was a complete catch, but didn't matter because they scored a touchdown anyway. But it came down to the Packers defense. After Green Bay, it was 20-20, Aaron Rodgers threw a crucial interception, which could have been a controversial pass interference call, but anyways, Dolphins get the pick. And this is important in the game where the fourth quarter was about to begin, and you saw what the Miami Dolphins did in Green Bay in the first half. Tua threw for 200 yards in that first half. But this is the point where you think, oh crap, that might have been it for the Packers. Tua shortly after an Aaron Rodgers interception, had a very awful throw to Tyreek Hill, wound up intercepted by Jair Alexander. And to mention in a press conference, thanks to the Miami Dolphins press conference, he pretty much stated he tried to overthrow a defender in front of Tyreek Hill, but managed to overthrow them both, Hill and the defender in front of him, and went to the arms of Jair Alexander. And that was the first interception. Again, Green Bay drove on the field, didn't get a touchdown, but get a field goal, 23-20. All right, Tua messed up once. Maybe he'll redeem himself. Another interception. This time, Devondre Campbell. I believe it was like a nice little slant route. I guess Devondre Campbell jumped the gun, jumped down in front, and got the pick. To believe that was miscommunication on that end. And Devondre Campbell was in a great position to get the interception. And again, Green Bay drove down the field, kicked a field goal, made it 26-20. There's a lot of criticism for Joe Barry and how him and his defense were this season. And I get it. Tua's not the greatest passer, but again, with the Miami Dolphins and their speed and talent, they're a great team this season. So Tua with 2 minutes to go, down 6. Joe Barry defense need to make a statement, and they did. Third interception picked off by Rasul Douglas. Pretty much iced the game, and Green Bay got their third straight win and improved to 7-8. Wow, you gotta give big props to the Packers defense for not only getting 3 picks and a fumble too. I forgot to mention it. There's a fumble recovery, but also allowing 0 points in the second half against the Dolphins, especially the Dolphins team, with a lot of speed and talent, and pretty much just shutting down that team. One of the biggest concerns for the Miami Dolphins, not only Tua's interceptions, but also too, Raheem Mostert only getting 8 touches for only 45 yards, which after the first 2 carries, he had like 32 yards after the first 2 carries. And after that, Raheem Mostert was not a problem after his first 2 carries. The Packer defense just shut him down and shut down the Dolphins. And it could be mostly too the Dolphins' mistakes more than it is the Packers defense getting the stops, which I think it probably is. I think it's most likely that's the case. The Dolphins just struggled more than the Packers defense actually being that elite defense that a lot of people believe to be. And Tua Tagovailoa pretty much ended up costing the Dolphins the game, and they have a big game against New England on next Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. But Aaron Rodgers got his Christmas victory and pretty much got everything the Packers needed. As you see on the screen, the Packers can clinch a playoff berth with the Commanders' loss, and the Packers win out. So 2 big games against the Vikings and Lions at Lambeau. Green Bay needs Commanders to lose. We'll see how that goes. But in the end, Green Bay wins 26-20 on a big win against Miami on the road. So we'll see how that goes. And go from one Hall of Fame quarterback to another, we'll talk about Tom Brady, which he gutsy win over a 4-10 Cardinals team, down 10, 16-6, utilizing Leonard Fournette, and pretty much got a win in overtime against the Cardinals, setting up a big game against the Carolina Panthers, which pretty much, as we go into another graphic, the Buccaneers can clinch the NFC South with a win over Carolina. The Panthers-Bucks next Sunday, and the Buccaneers need to do a lot better on offense than they did last week or this past night against the Cardinals, because the Buccaneers just looked awful. And a lot of people were saying, well, you don't want to see Tom Brady in the playoffs. Well, this Bucs team is different. I think a lot of teams actually want to see the Bucs in the playoffs. The Panthers are looking more scary than the Bucs right now. There's no explosive plays. It's just bad football. And the Bucs were very lucky to survive this game last night against the Cardinals. And Tom Brady's 45 years old, so I don't know how much longer he can do it. I mean, going overtime against the 4-10 Cardinals shows you that, hey, maybe it is time to hang up the cleats. But in the end, Tom Brady got it done. And as we look at Tom Brady's stats, and again, this was with Rodgers' stats, Brady went 32 of 48, 281 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Not the greatest stats, but doesn't matter. Got the job done. It sets up a crucial game against the NFC South, which we'll talk about that in a later week episode as we preview some of the big matchups for Week 17. And the Bucs beat the Panthers. They win the NFC South. But Tom Brady, after struggling in the first half, led another comeback to defeat the Cardinals in overtime, giving the Buccaneers a Christmas W. And now it was Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, how they survived Christmas, and giving their team much hope for the playoffs. As mentioned again, the Bucs only need to win next week, and the Packers need to win out, plus the Commanders lost in the last 2 games. So things are looking out bright for these 2 teams. Going from this topic to another now, 2 teams in the NFL who were naughty and nice over this past weekend. Naughty pretty much they're losing heartbreakers and did not perform as they did. I got the Dolphins and the Broncos. For the teams that were naughty this weekend, the Dolphins I felt like had many chances as described earlier. They had many chances to blow the Packers out, but failed to utilize it. Tua did not keep in the clutch as he did, throwing 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter. And with Raheem Mostert only getting 8 carries after pretty much annihilating the Packers secondary for the first 2 carries, I think that loss was huge on Miami, and they could be looking back at that game if they fail to miss the playoffs by 1 game. They could be looking back at this one like we could have had that. But yeah, the Dolphins were pretty much a naughty loser for my first team. And the second one, I got to go with the Denver Broncos as mentioned. And we'll talk more about the Broncos here in a sec. But Denver just absolutely got hammered this past Sunday. Wasn't the season of giving for Russell Wilson through 3 interceptions. And Baker Mayfield just pretty much annihilated that Broncos defense. And Cam Akers too with a big performance, 3 touchdown game. And for both these teams, Broncos and Rams with hard seasons, the Rams finally got a nice one. But more about the Broncos, they just had a disappointing season. 4-11 now. Russell Wilson, is he really that guy? Is it a coaching problem? Are the pieces just not working together? Who knows? But the Dolphins and Broncos were my 2 biggest naughty/losers this weekend. I felt like the Dolphins lost to 1 right there, and I felt like the Broncos just didn't show up at all against a struggling Rams team. Like, that was flat out embarrassing. And from naughty to nice, the 2 teams I got with the nice, and a lot of people might disagree, but I think the Packers were nice this weekend. Overcoming that first half against the Miami Dolphins after they just pretty much blew out their secondary. Dolphins were all over the place. The Green Bay Packers stepped up with crucial plays, whether defense, offense, etc. But the Packers stepped up in the second half when they needed the most, and they got the win, and they are now 2 wins away from the playoffs. So I think they're a winner/nice in my opinion. And the Jacksonville Jaguars this past Thursday against the New York Jets are a nice. They're clicking at the right time. Hiring Doug Peterson is probably the best thing to happen to Jacksonville in this past half decade. They're playing well. They're playing with a lot of heart. And they got a crucial game against the Texans. I wouldn't count the Texans out of being the Jacksonville Jaguars, but Jacksonville just needs to win out to make the playoffs. I think the Jaguars can get it done. So the 2 teams that were naughty, the Dolphins, the Broncos, and the 2 teams that were nice, the Packers and the Jaguars. And last but not least for the topic, we're going to talk about the Broncos real quick. We'll talk about the Broncos now. 51-14 loss over the Los Angeles Rams. Pretty much summarize their embarrassing season. When you go back to March, they traded for Russell Wilson. They hired Nathaniel Hackett. They signed Randy Gregory. There were a lot of people, even myself, if you look back at my power rankings, I had the Broncos very high. I thought the Broncos were a very talented team. They just needed a quarterback and a really good coach. And they got their quarterback in Russell Wilson, who, over the past decade in Seattle, pretty much transformed that franchise into a winning culture. And now, with Nathaniel Hackett at the helm, they just seem like they can't get it done no matter what. Week 1, it looked great, despite a one-loss game against the Seahawks. They looked great from week 1, but ever since then, it hasn't really been much. And as we talk again about Russell Wilson, 15 for 27, 214 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks against the Rams. Yeah, that wasn't cooking. That was a meltdown. And you got to wonder if it is Russell Wilson, if it is a coaching issue. I don't think you should give up on Russell Wilson yet. I personally believe it's a coaching issue going on in Denver. And a lot of players are very unhappy with Russell Wilson. You see it from the interview, not from the interviews, but you see it from videos all over the internet, which tend to be false information too. There was a play where Russell threw a pick and Courtland Sutton was just jumping up and down as he was pretty much wide open too, and Russell just didn't focus on him. The Broncos and Nathaniel Hackett got at least in on a high note in the last 2 weeks. You're playing the Chiefs and the Chargers. I don't know if they will end on a high note, but Nathaniel Hackett is looking to probably get fired after this season, after only being with the Broncos for a full season. If Nathaniel Hackett gets fired, who did he go to? They were talking about Sean Payton coming out of retirement to coach. He could be an option. We'll have to find out and see. But the Denver Broncos right now could be in a conversation for the worst football team in the league. They're not looking great. They're not playing great. And it's very disappointing too after the offseason they had last year and they can't even get the job done. So we'll find out. I think it'll be interesting the last couple weeks if the Broncos do manage to maybe play spoilers for a couple teams. We'll see. But that's pretty much about it then. Kind of a little short podcast, roughly around 20 minutes. We just want to say hopefully everyone has a Merry Christmas. We appreciate our love and support. Hopefully you got everything you wanted for Christmas. We'll be doing another show. We'll have a show coming out later this week to preview some of the crucial Week 17 games as we inch closer and closer to what is going to be a wild postseason. And about as wild as this season has been, it's going to be a crazy postseason. Brady, my name is Alex. Thank you for listening to 4thDown Podcast. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok under 4thDown. Spotify will be coming out soon. We hope you guys have a great day, and bye.